You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
Back from Cleveland to Ohio, I would imagine, with a summer tan and maybe like one of those flowery Hawaiian shirts.
That Cleveland is known so well.
Cleveland, right?
Yes, of course.
Sam Dykstra, the Futures Game is in the books. The Futures Game, the All-Star Game, everything's in the books, and we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. I'm Tyler Mon. Sam was in Cleveland, got a chance to do all the fun stuff. How was it, man?
It was good. It was good. Cleveland definitely showed up for the...
Is that what you would say? Cleveland rocks?
Cleveland rocks, yes. Sure. Let's go with that. Everybody's favorite Drew Carey show, which was a favorite of mine growing up. But anyway. No, it was great. Cleveland really did a great job as a host. I feel like the entire city was really centered around the All-Star Game and the All-Star experience. And, everybody was wearing an Indians cap. I know it's a great sports city, and you talk to anybody from Cleveland, that's what they'll say is we're big sports fans there, and that's definitely true. But they put it up to 10 over the weekend, which was a lot of fun. So, I did a lot in the city itself. I don't know what would have happened if I was there for an extra day or two, but there's definitely enough in Cleveland, including the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Obviously, did that to tide you over for a couple days, and then the reward at the end was the Futures Game on Sunday, which was a lot of fun and something we'll get into here in a little bit.
We will dive into that here momentarily. Thanks for joining us on the Show Before the Show, wherever you found us at MILB.com/podcast or on iTunes, Google Play, everywhere else. You can give us a rating and a review and a subscription, and you can get in touch with the show as well. Podcast at MILB.com. And let's kick it off. 3 strikes for this week's episode. We are diving in with the Futures Game first. A 2-2 tie after 8 innings, the 2019 MLB All-Star Futures Game, which was, or the Sirius XM Futures Game, I guess I should clarify. The format reduced to 7 innings for this year, and then everybody was like, yeah, we're not going to just play 7 innings. And it went 8. Pitching, fantastic. Some of the best arms in the minor leagues really, really shining very brightly in the, especially on the National League side. I feel like the bigger names maybe on the National League side kind of put themselves out there, from Mackenzie Gore to Ian Anderson. Dustin May was fantastic. But Sam, you were there. You got the front row view. Give us your impressions of the 2019 Futures Game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing this game is going to be remembered for is it was the first game played under several new formats, really. We used to go from the U.S. versus the world. Now it's AL versus NL. I think that worked really well. They also changed it in terms of when the start time was. This was moved after the celebrity softball game. So it started at 7 o'clock. I think it was the only baseball game going on at that point, at least in terms of national coverage. So that was kind of good to put it on the national stage in that way. But the one that didn't work out was that it was supposed to be 7 innings, like you mentioned, Tyler. Through other sources, I'm sure, and other factors, they wanted it limited, I think mostly to just take out the possibility for any injury. You cut off 2 innings. Teams decided to go an extra inning anyways. It was funny sitting around the press box as the game got close. After Sam Huff hit the game-tying 2-run homer in the bottom of the 7th, everybody was frantically saying, okay, well, what are the rules here? We all kind of assumed that they would be the minor league rules, in which a batter is automatically placed on second base with no outs to start the inning, and that was true. But there was also the decision made by the higher-ups that it was only going to be limited to 1 extra inning. That's how we end up with a 2-2 tie. But in terms of individual standouts from the game, Sam Huff, like I mentioned, he ended up being named Game MVP. I believe that's called the Larry Doby Award. And he showed up because he was the only guy to hit a home run in the game, which is funny because last year there was a record set for most home runs in a Futures game. The wind was definitely blowing in, but I think a lot of it also had to do with just the stuff that people were throwing. I also had a funny conversation after the game with Taylor Trammell and Carter Kieboom, in which they both played in the game last year. And I said, what was the difference? Last year was a slugfest. This year's was a pitcher's duel. And Taylor started making a whistling noise like the wind. And then he was like, well, also the pitcher's really good. And then Carter just looked at me and said, well, this is baseball. Like anything could happen day to day, no matter what. So he's like, we play this game tomorrow. We hit another 8 home runs. Today it was just the pitcher's day. Last year's was the hitter's day. That's the way it goes. But Sam Huff hitting that home run, guy's 6'4", tons of power in that. He was among the minor league leaders at the beginning of the year at Class A Hickory. He got moved up to Class A Advanced down east. The power he has shown is the reason why he was in this futures game. Another reason why is because he was listed as a catcher. He actually got moved to first base. The AL side went up to him and said, hey, would you mind playing first? He didn't have a first baseman's mitt. He had to go to the other team, the NL team, and get Will Craig's first baseman's mitt. So that little versatility that he has is going to make that bat play even more and give him more chances. At 6'4", he's probably not going to be a catcher. He wants to be a catcher. That's how he still defines himself. But given his size and given his pop, a move to first base could certainly be in the cards full time down the line. When it came to pitchers, my MVP pick would have been Padres prospect Luis Patino. He was the only pitcher to go multiple innings in this game, almost out of necessity. The NL side, Adbert Alzolay was on the team technically, but he had pitched, I believe, on Friday for AAA Iowa. So he wasn't available to pitch. The NL was basically out of arms. They had to get Patino to go an inning and 2/3. And he struck out 3, didn't allow anybody to reach. One of those 3 strikeouts was getting Joe Adell to swing and miss on the final out of the game. And again, Patino was pitching in that final inning with a runner already on second base. And that runner, I believe, was Royce Lewis, who is a plus runner. Anything that falls in the outfield, he's probably scoring on. Patino limited hard contact, got the strikeout, was throwing in the upper 90s pretty easily, taking advantage of this showcase in that you're only going to go for a limited amount of time. You can throw a little harder. You can show off your stuff. He definitely did that and kind of opened my eyes to him. Trammell had maybe the most fun part of the game. He was last year's Futures Game MVP. And, was a little bit more comfortable in the environment. He'd been through it before. He knew what to do. He knew that his skills could play on a playing field like this one. So at one point in the game, he reaches third base. He notices it's Chris Bubic on the mound, a Royals left-hander. Left-handers aren't really watching third base that much. He watches one pitch and then turns to Omar Vizquel, who's coaching third base for the AL team, and says, I think I'm going to go. And Vizquel's like, all right, well, you saw one, so you have the green light when you want to do it. And he tried to steal home plate in a futures game. It was a straight steal. There wasn't like a sign on. It wasn't a suicide squeeze or safety squeeze or anything like that. He just went on the pitch. And I think the crowd kind of tipped it off because everybody got to their feet. Everybody saw him moving, was like, whoa. And Bubic immediately saw it and threw home, and they tagged him. Replay said looked like it was safe. It looked like he got his hand in there. He was called out. It was a close play. It was a bang play. Trammell, to his credit, said after the game, it's a Southern League umpire. He knows that umpire really well. That umpire does a really good job day in and day out. He wasn't about to blame him for it. He knows there's a lot on the line for that umpire as well. He's not going to get angry about it. But in a 2-2 game, knowing that this exciting play would have decided it for the NL, that Huff homer wouldn't have even mattered, is something to look back on. In terms of other pitchers who stood out to me, Nate Pearson did what Nate Pearson does. He touched 102 at some points. He was throwing 101 at others. What he was most proud of is that he was able to show off the slider. He knows he's a fastball guy. He knows everybody else knows he's a fastball guy. But when you're in a showcase like this, you want to show you can do other things. So he showed off his slider. I think at least 2 of the outs were with the slider, maybe the third as well. So he seemed to come away with the experience positively and happy with what he was able to do. Joe Adell reached base 3 times. He walked twice, got a single. He also made a nice catch in right field. Kind of stumbled a little bit before it, but made a nice recovery and made a nice diving catch out there on the grass. Sixto Sanchez hit triple digits as well. Dustin May was throwing 97, 98. So, these guys were taking advantage of the opportunity in front of them. A lot of them maybe have played on a major league stadium or in a major league stadium before, on showcase circuit stuff before the draft. Some of these international guys haven't done it. Maybe they've taken BP after they signed, something like that. But a lot of these guys really do go into it with bright eyes and trying to take it all in and trying to know what that feeling is like to play under the big lights in front of 30,000 plus who are all there in Cleveland. So in terms of the game itself, disappointing 2-2 tie. In terms of the prospects who got to show off their stuff, really fun to take away from that and get to see these guys at the peak of their abilities all compete against each other.
And strike two this week is Futures Game related. Actually, a handful of participants who have been bumped up levels, either the news coming right before the Futures Game or right after the Futures Game or over the weekend, but guys who we kind of expected once we got to this stage of the season, they'd be moving on to the next step. Two names really big among those. Mackenzie Gore, the top San Diego Padres prospect who just dominated the Class A Advanced California League for the first half of the season, and Luis Robert, the Chicago White Sox outfield prospect. He'll be at his third level already this season. Gore is headed to the AA Texas League. Robert is headed to the AAA International League. Not a huge surprise with these two guys. I think for Mackenzie Gore, this almost feels like way overdue at this stage.
Oh, way overdue. Way, way overdue. I had a tool shed a couple weeks ago that said, here are some guys who we should be expecting to move up soon. It was all-star break time in most of the minor leagues. And that's about the time we see guys move up, is that they get their recognition and then they move on for new challenges. The Padres allowed Gore to get a couple more starts, and I'm sure there are people in the Cal League who are upset about that. He actually ended his run in the Cal League with 2 scoreless outings, one going 6 innings, the other going 7 innings, which is a career high. Then he moves on to the Futures Game, finds out at the Futures Game he's not going back to the Lake Elsinore. He's going to Amarillo. But the numbers he put up over his time in Lake Elsinore are just insane. He had a 1.02 ERA. Mind you, this is in a hitter-friendly league. 110 strikeouts over 79 in the third innings. Opposing batters only hit 137 against him, and he had a 0.71 whip. Now, in terms of minor league pitchers with at least 50 innings pitched, and there were 400 plus of them at the time I wrote this story yesterday, he was second in ERA, whip, average against, and strikeout percentage. He needed something new. I had Padres fans in my mentions at times, which was kind of strange. Normally, fans like seeing their players pushed. With Gore, they were like, why would you disrupt this? He's dominating. Just let him dominate. And it's like, no, he's going to become a better pitcher if he learns what won't work. And that's what's going to happen at the Texas League.
I don't really get the logic behind, just keep him at the high A level. He's good there.
Yeah.
Don't you kind of want him at the big leagues at some point?
Yeah, we normally push back against the, hey, just call him up to San Diego.
Exactly. Normally that's the, bring him up now. Well, no, there's some work to do before that.
Right.
Yeah, that's an odd take.
Yeah, he's going to do some things in the Texas League that, he was able to get away with in the Cal League. I think, it's a 1-inning look, and I don't want to put too much into it. But Gore was a little bit iffy at times, and with his command on Sunday in the Futures Game, and that's facing different hitting. He went up against Joe Adell and walked him, and then he erased Joe Adell on a pickoff caught stealing, which worked out pretty well. So he still ended the inning clean, no hits allowed. But that's something he's got to take away. Is Joe Adell is a AA hitter right now. He's going to be a little bit more patient. You can't just chuck your stuff and assume that they're going to be off balance and hacking. You're going to have to find the zone, and that's something Gordon normally does well, but he needs to do it more consistently. So that's something that's going to be a little bit of a point of emphasis here at AA. And, he's going to make some mistake pitches that are going to be hammered. That's just the nature of the beast. He didn't make many of them in the first half. He only gave up 4 homers in 79 and third innings. But some of those pitches I'm sure he made in the Cal League are going to get hit in the Texas League, and he's going to adjust and become a better pitcher for it. So he needs that next challenge. As good as it was, and as much as I would love to see what type of video game numbers he could get back in the Cat League, it's going to be a better environment for him when he moves up to Amarillo. I'm really looking forward to the challenge for him. His first start will actually be Friday at Frisco. So if you're in the Frisco area, you want to see a really, really good pitching prospect, go see McGuckin on Friday. The other one you mentioned, Tyler, is Luis Robert moving up to AAA Charlotte. This we knew before the game even happened. 56 games at AA Birmingham. Obviously came flying out of the gate previously at Class A advancements at Salem, held his own at Birmingham, hitting 314, 362, 518 with 8 homers and 21 stolen bases. Wasn't necessarily a star on Sunday in the way that we would have liked, but again, one game doesn't make or break a prospect. He has been solid from beginning to end this season. Somebody else who just kind of needed a new challenge, and he'll certainly get that at AAA. He's going to face guys, some of which have just come from the majors. So that'll be really fascinating to see what he can do with that, because I think the biggest strides he's made this year have been with the hit tool, and that's what gets challenged most the higher you climb. So Robert's going to have to work that out, getting pitched backwards. How is he going to be handling that? But one interesting wrinkle is Charlotte might be the most hitter-friendly ballpark in the International League. So he could still put up some bonkers numbers there. We're just going to have to pay attention to the splits, see how much of that is happening at home versus places like Durham and Norfolk and stuff like that. But yeah, very interesting. Very happy to see these guys move up one step closer to the major leagues. See what happens when they get these new tests and how they respond. If they respond how they have almost everywhere else they've played, we're going to continue thinking about them as some of the most exciting prospects in all of baseball.
And strike three this week, kind of some bummer news out of the Houston Astros organization, where baseball's 48th ranked overall prospect and 4th ranked in the Houston system, Corbin Martin, will miss the rest of the season and a, quote, significant portion of the 2020 season after undergoing Tommy John surgery last week. The Astros announced that on Friday. The surgery was on Wednesday, and 10 days earlier, Corbin Martin departed his last start, which was at the time just kind of deemed to be an elbow injury. He had discomfort in his pitching elbow, and the right-hander undergoing surgery about 10 days later. This obviously sucks. I mean, the Tommy John thing sucks for anybody. But for Corbin Martin, who really seemed like he was kind of on the verge of breaking through and being a contributor at the major league level, he's already been up there for 5 games this season. This really stings for a guy who was at that last stage of his development.
Yeah, no, I think you put that well. He was somebody who basically cut the line almost. Beginning of the year, we all thought, when is Forrest Whitley going to come up? And Forrest Whitley obviously had his stumbles. He's dealing with his own injury issues right now. But Corbin Martin all of a sudden gets called up in the middle of May, and like he was looking like a major league option. He really was. His first outing, he struck out 9 in 5 1/3 innings, was showing improved stuff. 3 of his pitches are above average. He's got good control, and starting to pick up. And he hit some bumps along the way. He ended up having a 5.59 ERA over 5 starts with the Astros before getting sent back down to Round Rock. But he was on the picture, and this is an Astros team that is competing for something. They're leading the AL West once again. Maybe he can work his way back into the rotation if he was going to be healthy, or work into some sort of long relief role, maybe something like what Josh James did. He doesn't have the same velocity as James, but he can hit the upper 90s at times in shorter stints. So maybe he was going to be something around September when rosters expand, trying to push for a playoff role. That's not going to happen. And also the timing is just the worst because, as Tyler said, when Tommy John surgery happens, we think, okay, that's 12 months. That's a year. Bang. That's exactly how much you're going to miss. But he comes back, and then they're still going to be working up to it. So let's say he does miss a year. He's coming back next July. But at that point, he's throwing 2 or 3 innings and trying to show major league readiness. It might not be until 2021 until we can talk about Corbin Martin being a real threat to be back in a major league rotation, which is really upsetting given how close he was and how much he actually was in the Houston rotation at times this year. To see that cut is really upsetting and disappointing for him. But, 23 years old, not that young necessarily for prospect status, but not that old. He'll be back next year at 24, working his way back. And if it is until 2021, then we're talking about him being 25, which still isn't that bad. So hopefully it's a quick and easy recovery for him, and he can come back and be the pitcher he was through the first half of the season. But yeah, disappointing news over the weekend for Corbin Martin.
And that is 3 strikes for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Coming up, Sam's got an interview from Futures Game / All-Star Week. Give us a preview.
Yeah, so I always like being at the Futures Game, not just for the game itself, but just it's so cool being in the locker rooms and seeing and looking around and just seeing all these guys we cover on a day-to-day basis just around you all at the same time. Somebody I wanted to talk to on the podcast for a long time is Grayson Rodriguez, Orioles top prospect. Won't be the top prospect long when Adley Rutschman gets added into the mix. He'll be officially the top prospect. But Grayson Rodriguez having a fantastic first season there at Class A Delmarva. We get into a little bit of what has made that Delmarva team so successful because they were one of the teams in the first half having a great first half. He talks a little bit about why that is. And also, he's a first-round pick. He has a little bit of pressure on him, but he's responding incredibly well. Moving to the Futures Game this quickly in his career, we touched on that as well. So here he is, top Orioles prospect, speaking from the American League clubhouse at the Futures Game on Sunday, Grayson Rodriguez.
So what's the experience been like so far here in Cleveland?
It's been great. Some people say this is a big league experience, I guess. You get to feel it for a day. But
right.
Yeah, it's been nice.
What's been the most eye-opening experience part of it so far?
Probably just getting into the stadium. Walking into the big league stadium, this is my first time being in one after the day I signed. So, it's just a great feeling walking through the tunnels. The field looks beautiful. It's a nice stadium, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah, what's it going to be like pitching out there with a third deck, something like you said, you haven't done before? What do you expect that experience to be like?
I don't know. I've never thrown in a big league stadium before. This will be my first time playing in one, so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens.
So how do you kind of keep in the moment then when you are going through new experiences like you've had so many in the last year? What do you do to kind of stay grounded?
Just keep it simple, I guess. The game doesn't change. The setting does, but, just to go out and play the baseball game, pitch like you know how to throw.
You kind of take me through this last year. You get drafted last year. You're already at the Futures Game. I'm sure it's been a bit of a whirlwind. What has this last year been like?
It's been great. It's very rare to make the Futures Game during your first full season, but I was kind of surprised when they let me know I was going, and it was a great feeling. The hard work's paid off a little bit so far, but you just got to keep going.
When did you find out?
My manager, my pitching coach told me about a week and a half ago.
Oh, okay. All right. What was your reaction? Was that even something on your radar whatsoever?
No. I didn't even know what to say. I guess I was speechless.
All right. So kind of take me through this first half then in Delmarva, your first time full season ball, first time pitching every fifth day instead of every week. What has this kind of been like, the transition to that aspect of the game?
It's been smooth so far. I had lots of people tell me what to expect in full season. It's very helpful. And it's just more of a real baseball season, I guess. I've never been exposed to anything like that, and so far I love it.
And you flew out of the gate. You were doing really, really well through April, May. Even now, obviously, your stats are good enough to be here. What's allowed you to make that transition so well?
I guess just throw the game you know how to throw. Trust your coaches, great staff. The Baltimore Orioles are headed in the right direction. Analytics are a big thing now. When to throw pitches, what pitches to throw to certain hitters. It's all helped me tremendously.
And when you say analytics, what's something you've taken away from analytics that you've implemented into your game that you weren't doing necessarily in high school or something?
I guess numbers, aspects, facing hitters, what they can do well, and what I can do well, and throwing my good stuff to their weaknesses.
So when do you get that information? How does that kind of trickle down to you? Is it you pick the information? Is it something you go to them? How does that kind of whole process work?
No, they provide everything. Obviously they give you suggestions what they think you should do. And it all just ties in together.
And what's kind of been the state of the Orioles system? Obviously, it's rebuilding right now, adding a lot of talent. This previous one, your draft, added a lot of talent to the pipeline. What has it been like to be part of a rebuilding system where the focus is so much on the minor leagues?
It's great. We have lots of focus. It's been something special. They're really putting a lot of time and effort into the minor leagues. It's been great. Just the developmental side, like I was saying, analytics. It's such a big part of our organization now. And being able to use that, it's been nice.
Yeah. What is it like being in the Baltimore system, where you've only gotten a taste of it so far, but Delmarva, Frederick, Bowie, Norfolk, they're all around that Baltimore area. What is it like being that close to a fan base?
It's great. Being in Maryland, lots of Baltimore Orioles fans. So the fans and all the home games are great throughout the organization. Lots of Orioles fans, lots of people, being positive, being able to watch the minor league teams play.
And being a Texas guy, what did you know about Maryland before going there?
Not much at all.
So have you tried the crab cakes yet? Are you a crab cakes person, or?
I've tried a few crab cakes, but I hadn't had too many of them. I guess I need to start trying them more often.
Fair enough. So we talked a little bit about analytics. In terms of stuff, where is your kind of stuff taken off now that you're going through bullpens and side sessions and all that kind of stuff, preparing for games? How has your stuff improved the last couple of months?
Just how to execute pitches. Worked on a changeup. From the analytical standpoint, it's helped me tremendously. Learning how to throw it, when to throw it. And just kind of fine-tuning pitches. It's a lot easier to see stuff on a computer and numbers rather than just feeling it, I guess some guys say. You're able to see it and figure out how to make it better.
And that change-up, that's something a lot of high school guys do have to develop their first year. What are you doing to kind of develop that pitch? What are you doing with it now in that side work?
Mainly focusing on the spin axis. The axis at which the ball spins. Being able to get it on that 3 o'clock horizontal line has been a big thing. I practice every day, every time I pick up a baseball.
And how comfortable do you feel throwing it now? Is it still developing pitch? Is it something you feel as comfortable as you do with your fastball, slider, breaking pitches, or is it not there yet?
I'm in love with it. I feel like now I can throw it in any kind of count, beginning of the count, late in the count, 3-2, whatever it might be. I'm fully comfortable with it now, and it's really helped me this year.
And how do you approach a game like this, where it's a showcase, it's your chance to be on national TV, like you said, a taste of Major League Stadium? What do you do in a game like this to kind of, what are you going to be thinking about when you make your appearance out there?
Just to go out and throw, not really worry about anything else. It's pretty easy to get caught up in everything that's happening around you, and I feel like if you do that, you might get nervous or you might start worrying about stuff that really doesn't matter. But just go out there and just compete with the best in the business.
And on this last one, well, actually to piggyback off that, who are you looking most forward to facing potentially on the NL side?
Everybody. They're stacked over there, and so are we. Both teams are great teams, lots of big talent guys. And I'm just ready, whatever hitter it might be, I'm ready to face them. I'm excited.
And that Delmarva team has been very, very good in the first half. How much are you guys talking on a day-to-day basis? Hey, we are the future of the Baltimore Orioles. The success is going to come from this team, Frederick, those lower levels, as you guys rebuild.
It's been fun. We've had a great year down there, just winning lots and lots of ball games. Everybody's playing great. Team chemistry is phenomenal. It's fun to show up to the clubhouse every day. You look forward to it. 7:05, you get that game that night. Everybody's waiting for that moment, so they can go out and do what they love to do. And it's just been a great year.
What's been your favorite moment of the first half?
The first half, probably winning it. We clinched in West Virginia, and I've never been a part of something like that. But the celebrations and just feeling the sense of accomplishment that we conquered the first half of the season. Getting that automatic bid in the playoffs, it was special.
All right, great. Thanks, Grayson. Thanks so much.
Benjamin Hill joins the show for a follow-up on a story that we talked about a bunch before the season, and we now have a thrilling conclusion to, and I'm very excited to dive into it. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Tyler, and hello, Sam Dykstra, sitting to my left in conference room 5V.
For victory.
V is for victory. And Sam always does say that. He usually goes up to the conference room first and says, Ben, we're in this room. And he does the, B as in boy. But for Sam, it's a V as in victory.
Does he do that over text message? He says B is for boy.
Yeah. In case you can't read that, let me give you the word.
Yeah, you could get tricky. You could be like, we're in room 5P as in psychology.
Ah.
You would remember it, though.
4X for xylophone. Anyway, let's get started. The Charleston River Dogs, we are recording this on Wednesday, July 10th. Last night, July 9th, in Charleston, South Carolina, finally, one of the promotions of the year arrived with Helen McGuckin night. And if you are not familiar with this backstory, if you've just joined the show for the first time in the last couple of months, Charleston announced this promotion before the season. There was a woman on Google Reviews named Helen McGuckin who gave the Charleston River Dogs 2 out of 5 stars about a year ago with a review, and her review was, quote, just drove by. So the River Dogs got that review, got that rating, and decided that they wanted to get Helen McGuckin out to the ballpark. They were going to blow it out. They were going to give her the night of her life. And Ben, take us through Helen McGuckin night and the magic that it was in Charleston last night.
Yeah, I mean, Helen only gave them 2 stars. So the premise of this promotion is we're going to find her and we're going to make sure she has a 5-star night at the ballpark. And, we're going to change that 2-star review to 5 stars. She's not just going to drive by. She's going to experience everything the team has to offer. We talked about this one in the past. Certainly when I was going through promo schedules before the season started, this was probably my favorite promotion because – hey, I'm not a front office executive who has to worry about revenue. I just like,
whether it's effective.
Yeah, I just like ideas, and the weirder the better. And this is one of the weirder ones. So Helen McGuckin night, they announced it in March. They scheduled it for July, and the whole premise was we want to find Helen McGuckin. Helen McGuckin, give us a call. So all season long on the video board, they would put this message up, featuring her review and saying, Helen, give us another chance. Call us with the team's front office number. Months went by, but one of the team's season ticket holders said, hey, you know what? I do know this woman, Helen McGuckin. He helped facilitate Helen getting in touch with the team. Nate Krant, kind of the mastermind, director of promotions for the team, he talked to Helen and kind of explained what it was. He said Helen, was a little taken aback at first, just being like, what? But, thought it was funny, liked the idea, said she wanted to do it. And Helen McGuckin night was going to be on, finally, July 9th. They will bring Helen McGuckin to the ballpark, give her a 5-star night. Unfortunately, a few days before July 9th, before the game was to happen, Helen had some scheduling conflicts and could not make it to her scheduled night, July 9th, Helen McGuckin night. But the team still said, we still want to have Helen McGuckin night and, provide a 5-star night at the ballpark, showing that we're a 5-star organization. So they recruited a fake Helen McGuckin and gave the fake Helen McGuckin a 5-star night at the ballpark. This was a woman named Cynthia, their office manager. And they said, look, Helen can't make it. Will you just be Helen McGuckin tonight? And so they went through Helen McGuckin night, giving Helen McGuckin, now in quotes, a 5-star evening, even though it was an employee of the team named Cynthia. So, she had the best seats in the house. Well, I guess she probably parked her. Whatever. She would have VIP. She would have had VIP parking. Concessions delivered to her on a table with a tablecloth. Mascot delivered flowers. An employee fanning her all game when it looked like it might rain a little bit. Standing over her with umbrellas. She threw out a first pitch. They had welcoming videos for Helen prior to the game that the players took part in, and on and on and on. Giving Helen McGuckin the 5-star night she deserved, even if Helen McGuckin was not there. They still went through with Helen McGuckin night. And one of the between inning contests they had, in one of the between inning contests, they asked Helen, or the woman playing Helen, to pick the correct cap, in the hat shuffle contest where there's a ball under the cap and they move around. Helen got it wrong. So they acted quickly in the production room and changed the answer to make sure she got it right. That's the kind of evening Helen McGuckin was having. And then another between inning contest was not involving Helen McGuckin, the actress playing Helen McGuckin, but they had a between inning contest in which they read real Helen McGuckin reviews from other businesses she's left, and then the contestants had to guess how many stars that review was. Like for the Food Lion, her review was something along the lines of, produce was good, apples were shiny. And then it would be, how many stars do you think that review was of the Food Lion? And the correct answer was 4 stars. So
the Food Lion for having shiny apples got 4 stars.
Yeah.
The Charleston River Dogs for not being evidently visually appealing enough from the road got 2. So here's hoping the real Helen McGuckin I'm sure the River Dogs, even if it's not as officially advertised theme night, I'm sure, I shouldn't speak on anyone's behalf, but I'm sure the River Dogs would be very happy to still give Helen McGuckin the 5-star treatment anytime the real Helen McGuckin can make it. The fake Helen McGuckin had a great time, and I think all things considered, things worked out okay.
What if the real Helen McGuckin pulls what you're supposed to actually do as a reviewer, like a cultural reviewer, and not tell people you're coming, and she sits 5 sections away from home plate, up the first base side, whatever, doesn't tell anybody, and then gives an honest to God review and still comes away 3 stars, bumps it up to 3.
Yeah, maybe 3, but maybe there wasn't enough shade and it was a little crowded. The concession lines were long.
Right, but there's any possibility, anything could happen. It could have been a rain out. But I feel like there's more twists and turns for this story than just ending it at Helen McGuckin.
There really are. And on one hand, this is such a weird, anomalous promo. I can't see it sweeping the nation. But on the other hand, I hope other teams. That's exactly it, Sam. That would be my message to other teams is find your own Helen McGuckin and try to take this concept further because it's pretty funny. And look, it's a Tuesday night. It's not the best night at a minor league ballpark, but you still have good crowds, especially in July, and you want to do fun things. And so they did something for Helen McGuckin.
Pretty incredible story. And if we can all find our own Helen McGuckin and just try our best to make everyone, take that second look. It's very philosophical, all these things. So kudos to the Charleston River Dogs. Ben, there's a whole bunch that you have had on the site and continue having on the site from Amarillo. There's a couple of really good stories that are up from your most recent trip on the road, including one in which you dive a little bit deeper into a topic that we've covered on the show before, the Sod Poodles Anthem, which was written by a guy named Carson Leverett, who you got to meet when you were in Amarillo.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent 3 nights in Amarillo, and I'm used to usually spending 1 night in locations. So now that I spent 3 nights in a place, and I just have too much material. But the good thing is I have too much material. It's good to have things to write about, as any writer knows. And, I'm a big fan of team theme songs. We all are. Tyler, you and I a couple years ago did the all-team theme song episode, a show before the show. That was before the Sod Poodles existed, but I would say the Sod Poodle Anthem by Carson Leverett is my favorite. Well, it's comparing apples and oranges, but it's my favorite alongside Everybody Loves Curve Baseball as my two favorite minor league team theme songs. But Carson is a legit talent. He's a local boot maker by trade. Went to college in Nashville, but a Texas guy and with roots in the Amarillo area. Thoughtful guy. He went to grad school. I can't remember what he told me he went to grad school for, but it was kind of like religious philosophy. He's a thinker. So don't apply too many of the your swaggering macho cowboy stereotypes of the guy. Yes, he's from Amarillo. Yes, he's a country singer. Yes, he's a bootmaker. But real quiet, soft-spoken dude. It was really great to meet him. When he wrote the song, it was even before Sod Poodles was officially picked as a name, but he liked that name the best and wanted to do his own thing. It did go viral locally. Then he ended up going to Nashville right before the season, recording with session musicians so that there was a ballpark version that could be played at the ballpark. So now if you go to a Sod Poodles game, you'll hear the studio version, which is more upbeat and obviously has, a lot more musicians on it, background vocals, some horn section, all that. That's played at Hodgetown, the home of the Sod Poodles, in the 7th inning of every game, and then once again if they win. So, from a guy in his living room just kind of riffing on a goofy team name, for that to turn into a legit anthem that's has a studio version played at the stadium, I think is really cool. I love the song. It's legitimately catchy. I would sing it, but you guys never seem to
We
like
can
that.
play it.
But yeah, we'll play it. We'll play it. And in the MILB.com story I wrote, and again, all my material can be found on MILB.com/BensBiz. In the MILB.com story, I have an exclusive version in which, after interviewing Carson, we went to the ballpark during the day, got the team to turn off the PA music that was taking place like as players were warming up, and he did a solo version just on the concourse there. And so there's some background noise and everything, but I think it really speaks to the essence of the song, and I'm proud to have recorded that and to get that version of the Sod Poodles anthem into the world. And I'm saying this legitimately. If Carson releases more music, not just minor league theme music, I would be interested in listening to it. I think he's like a really good songwriter with a unique voice and thoughtful guy, and I think there's a lot more where that came from.
I mean, I really like his list of influences, just to give anybody, the type of idea of music we're talking about here. It's Lightning Hopkins, Jason Isbell, who's one of my favorite modern singers, and his number one influence is John Prine. So that kind of puts you in the state of mind for the type of singing, but it works really, really well. He even lists Steve Goodman, who did Go Cubs Go.
Yeah.
I mean, this just plugs right into.
He told me at one point, he said, "I want to write the Go Cubs Go of Amarillo." That's what he's going for. And Steve Goodman is a deeply respected songwriter above and beyond Go Cubs Go.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's just, when you are writing a ballpark anthem, that's a good influence to have.
Absolutely.
That was really fun. Also, while you were in Amarillo, you wrote up this story, or you got this story anyways, about the fielding coach for the Sod Poodles. Fielding coach is something that I think is starting to pick up steam in the minor leagues. It's not something that really started when we started.
No, it's not something I'm too familiar with, but I was in El Paso and we talked about this a few weeks ago. I did a story on the Burkhart brothers, who are both on the Chihuahuas coaching staff. One of them, Morgan, is the fielding coach. And writing that, I was like, fielding coach. Like, I've heard of it, but yeah, you don't think of it as, when you think of teams announcing its coaching staff, you think, manager, pitching coach, hitting coach, maybe a bullpen coach. But in the minors,
it's usually those three.
Yeah.
Or it used to be anyways, and it's changing now. And Freddie Flores is the fielding coach for the Amarillo Sod Poodles. But not only is he just that, not only is his job description interesting, the way he got there is fascinating. It includes independent ball. It includes softball, right? And then it ends up at a AA coaching job. What did you learn from your talk with Freddie? Yeah,
well, what happened there is, some people on the Sod Poodles front office staff had said, oh, yeah, Freddie Flores, when he was an independent league player, played in Amarillo, at the old ballpark. And so I thought, maybe as part of my larger Sod Poodles coverage, I'll just get a quote or two from Freddie Flores, as someone with direct experience now working in the new ballpark Hodgetown who had previously played at the old one, and get like a kind of compare and contrast quote or two for use in a larger story. But, as you guys know, like when you start talking to people, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, like maybe this is a story. Maybe this is something. And Freddie Flores, who was a real nice and open guy, we ended up chatting what I thought would just be 1 or 2 minutes of just some incidental quotes. We ended up talking for 20-some minutes. And this is a guy who was not drafted out of college, always loved baseball, played at Division II school in New Mexico, thought he would be drafted, wasn't, went into independent ball, spent 4 years in independent ball. He ended up coaching softball at a Division II school, first as an assistant, and in New Mexico, and parlayed that into a head coaching job. And he said, at the time I was 24 and that was a stable job and I could have a home and a car. And he did that for 7 years as a head coach, and, was pretty successful with that. One day in 2006, he is working on the field with his father, the softball field, and his father tells him, I think you've done everything you can with this softball coaching job. I think you kind of turn your back on baseball, and I think you have more to give. And this sounds, kind of like something a screenwriter would do, trying to create a narrative arc. His father collapsed on the field shortly after that conversation and died that day. So now Freddie Flores says to himself, that was his final conversation with his father. And now he's, been coaching for 9 years, 7 as a head coach. And so long story short, in his mid-30s, he grinds and hustles his way back into the independent leagues and spends all these years from basically between age 34 and 42 playing independent ball all over the country in some of those real ramshackle indie ball situations. One of the years in which he was in Amarillo playing at the old Amarillo ballpark, Potter County Memorial Stadium, he was hired as the hitting coach and then later activated as a pitcher. So he was an active pitcher on the roster, also the hitting coach. So he was all over the country, Fargo, Bridgeport, El Paso, Abilene, played in the ABL, Tyler, old stomping ground in Melbourne. Lincoln, Nebraska, all over the place. But then he gets offered a job in the Padres organization. He had some connections with Logan White, who is now, I believe, Padres director of player development or something pretty high up in the organization. Got a job at Lake Elsinore Storm in 2017, spent 27 and 18 there. And now at the age of 45, after breaking into affiliated ball as a coach and at age 43, now at age 45, he is the fielding coach for the Sod Poodles, playing in Amarillo, a city in which he spent 2 seasons in independent ball, and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, just one of those baseball journeys that I think I know every sport has a lot of people with stories that get overlooked. I think maybe baseball has the most of those stories. It feels like it to me. And I'm a big fan of those long and winding roads where people just love the game and all the cliches for the love of the game, keep grinding and just stay in it. And Freddie Flores, someone who broke back into indie ball in his mid-30s and played into his 40s to kind of pay homage to his father and his father's dying words is just a pretty interesting story. So I ended up not using a few incidental quotes. I ended up turning it into a feature, and here we are.
Some really cool stuff. It is up on the site right now at MILB.com. Ben is on Twitter at Ben's Biz. And thanks, man. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you. I look forward to it. And quick little trip note. I'll be in Auburn on Friday, home of the Double Days, and Syracuse Mets on Saturday. They will be playing as the Butter Sculptures. So not a road trip, but a little jaunt. So hit me up if you're in Central New York this weekend. And otherwise, we'll talk about it next week.
Last segment of this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. Big thanks to Grayson Rodriguez for joining Sam from the Futures Game, to Benjamin Hill as well. MILB.TV is your spot for all the best of minor league baseball as we head toward the stretch run now. It's kind of crazy it is to think about that. But Sam, what are you watching on MILB TV this weekend?
Yeah, well, I'll just throw out again that Mackenzie Gore will be making his debut on Friday at Frisco for Amarillo. I already gave you that one, so that's a freebie. The one I will add to that, which is also on Friday, so if you're not a big Padres fan, you don't want to watch that one, at 6:30 on Friday, Jordan Balazovic, who was a Futures gamer over the weekend, got an inning in himself, will be playing at Bradenton, and Bradenton does have MILB.TV, so that's really your one chance to get to see Florida State League guys come through is when they play through Bradenton, so that'll be fun. Not only that, Royce Lewis is on that Fort Myers team. He was also a Futures gamer over the weekend. Royce Lewis, since coming back from the Futures game, last I checked, the game is still happening at recording time, but he is 5 for 10 with 2 homers since coming back from the Futures game. Very small sample, but for somebody who really had a disappointing first half and has said that himself and has tried to put the pieces back together and find what he was last year, to see him turn it around like this is really interesting, and hopefully it carries forth and you'll get to watch and check in on his progress yourself on Friday. Also in that game will be Travis Swaggerty, Pirates first round pick last year. Swaggerty really turning things around himself. He was the Florida State League Player of the Week last week, actually, and through 8 games in July, he himself is 15 for 30 with a homer and 2 doubles. So not really much power there yet, but he's making tons of contact, putting it into play, putting it in the right places, and showing off the bat that made him a first-round pick last year. So tons of talent on the field for kind of a random FSL game in July, but that'll be coming up here on Friday. Tyler, what you got your eye on?
Yeah, a guy who's kind of slipped off the radar for a lot of people this season is Seattle Mariners number 4 prospect Justice Sheffield. And after spring training, we kind of heard, he was going to Tacoma, but a good start there. He could be up in Seattle real quick. Obviously had some time up with the New York Yankees last year before the trade to send him to Seattle over the offseason. Well, he went to Tacoma, 13 appearances there, 12 starts. The results were not good, a 6.87 ERA. The command disappeared. He walked 41 against 48 strikeouts in 55 innings. Mariners made the decision to send him down to AA Arkansas. I think the most encouraging thing about him since he's been back in the Texas League back at the AA level, is that his command has bounced back. He's only walked 7 against 34 strikeouts in 33 innings and over 5 starts, a 1.36 ERA. Justice Sheffield most recently started on the 9th of July for Arkansas against Northwest Arkansas, so he should go if the rotation lines up all the same. Coming up on Sunday, it's an evening game at Springfield for the Travelers. They'll take on the Springfield Cardinals at 6:10 Central Time, so 7:10 Eastern Time, 4:10 Pacific Time for Mariners fans who are in that area looking to watch on MILB.TV. But a guy to keep an eye on because it seems like maybe he's getting it all put back together. So Justice Sheffield coming up this weekend for the Arkansas Travelers. And that'll do it for this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. Again, you can get in touch, podcast at MILB.com. Sam's on Twitter at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon, and thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.